Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Bear River Blogger, and today we're actually headed out to the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. We're headed down to the auto tour route to go do some bird photography, and I wanted to stop here and talk to you guys, give you guys a little bit of a photography tip about landscape photography and the benefits of going to the same locations and photographing even the same subjects over and over again. If you're familiar with this area at all, this is, like I said, this is the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. And this part of it over there. And this is 4th Street that I'm standing on. This leads down to the auto tour route where I do a lot of bird photography. If you guys have never been here and you've never been on the auto tour route, I'll put a link in the description below that gives you a little bit of information about what the auto tour route's like on the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. It's an incredible place to photograph birds. It's just amazing. But the reason I stopped here is I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the landscape photography and about the benefits of going back to the same location and photographing the same subject over and over again. And the reason I wanted to stop here is because of these trees. Now, you might think, what's so interesting about these trees? They're boring, they're mundane, there's nothing going on with them. And you're right, they are. They're kind of boring and mundane. And I've been coming down this road for decades, and I come out here sometimes 4 or 5 times a week, and I drive past these trees all the time, and I've never thought to photograph them before. Up until last week, that is. Well, I came down last week, I actually caught these trees in some fog. Now, I'm going to put the pictures on top of this video so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. But I stopped and photographed them, and it was one of the most incredible scenes I've ever seen. And I never really thought about it before. I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. I was glad I came at the time I did, and I'm glad I saw the trees, and I actually had the wrong camera with me, but I did what I could with what I had. I only had my bird photography camera with my big lens on it, so I had to back up quite a ways and get the shot that I wanted. But I got the photos, and I think they turned out really well. Well, ever since then, I've been coming down 4th Street here, and I've been watching these trees because I like that the images I got so well. And it was kind of like, I've never paid any attention to these trees at all for decades. I'm going to challenge myself and see what else I can do with these trees, and start watching these trees and see if I can photograph them again and again, and see if I can make something interesting out of something so mundane and dull, which, you know, what these trees are right now. Well, so this past week, ever since I got those fog pictures, I've been coming out here and watching these trees and seeing what else I can do with them. Well, I've been able to catch them a couple of times with sunsets behind them, and I was able to catch them with a different composition and a different angle, and I kind of did a black and white composition of it, of these same boring, dull trees. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is you can come out to the same place and do the same, photograph the same subjects over and over again, and you'll get different pictures pretty much every time, because it's not the subject itself is what you're photographing. It's all the light, it's the weather, it's how you compose it. All those things will make a different picture every single time you photograph the same subject over and over again. So you're never really doing the same thing. Everybody thinks it's boring to go back and photograph the same subject. Well, actually, there's a benefit to that. The benefit is, and this is what I found, was reminded myself of last night when I came out here and there was a sunset that was starting to happen. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to those trees and see if I can get those trees in front of that sunset. The reason I was able to do that is I was so familiar with this area because I come here over and over and over again. I knew right where the trees were. I knew right where I had to be. I knew how long it was going to take me to get there. So I was very familiar with the area, and that's an advantage of coming back to the same place over and over again and photographing the same subjects. When different lighting happens, when different weather conditions happens, you know where to go. You know what you want to do. You have these ideas that pop into your head like it did with me last night. So there's a great advantage of actually going to the same location over and over again and photographing the same subject over and over again. What you want to do is actually just go in different lighting conditions. Go in the mornings, then go in the evenings, go when there's like fog or there's snow, different times of the year, different weather conditions, and get different scenarios around those subjects, and you'll get different pictures. So it's not the subject that you have to worry about photographing over and over again, because you'll never get the same picture twice. In fact, you could be standing here with someone else right next to you and take the same basic, what you think is the same photo. their photo is going to be different to yours because they're going to compose it differently. They're going to either overexpose it a little bit or underexpose it a little bit and get a different picture. So same subject can be interesting over and over again because what you're photographing is not the subject per se, but the light around it, the weather that's around it. You're composing it a little different each time. So there's a huge advantage actually coming out and getting the same pictures over and over again because you'll see things differently every single time. Like I did with these trees, I did it in the fog. And then last night I caught them in a sunset. And the day before I had a not quite as good as sunset, but there was another sunset on it. And then the other day I saw something when I drove by with a different composition. So I took it and I did it in a black and white. So there's an advantage of coming back to the same location. Everybody thinks it's boring. Goes like, oh, I've photographed it. There's nothing I can do. I've already photographed this place, a bunch of times. Why would I want to do it again? There's a huge advantage of doing that. You just catch it in different light. I always watch the weather. I watch and see what the clouds are doing for sunsets. I always watch and see what's going on. Like this morning, there was fog, so I drove up the road from my house and I tried to catch a scenario in the fog, and hopefully it worked out. If it does, I'll put that picture on this video as well. So I'm always watching things, and I'm always, photographing kind of the same things over and over again, but I'm seeing them in different scenarios, and that makes a completely different picture. So don't feel frustrated if you don't have places you think to photograph. You do, places you've already photographed, places that are around your house that might seem boring and mundane, like these trees. It's not the subject that's interesting. It's the light and the weather and the composition that makes it interesting. Now, I follow a photographer. His name's Michael Fry. I've read his books and I've been following him for years. He's a great landscape photographer. In one of his books, he made this comment about, and I'm going to paraphrase it here, about it's better to photograph an ordinary subject with extraordinary light than it is to photograph an extraordinary subject in ordinary light. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And when I read that, a long time ago, it made perfect sense to me. And I was reminded of that this week when I saw these trees and I started challenging myself to photograph them over and over again, basically because of that comment that Michael Fry did in his book. I wanted to see what I can do with these boring trees over and over again. And so far, I've been able to take 3 or 4 really good shots of these photos or of these trees in different lighting conditions and different weather conditions. And you can see right now, they're boring by themselves. There's nothing going on. But you catch it in the right light and you catch it in the right weather and you do the right composition, you can make something really interesting out of something so boring, because it's not the subject that makes the picture. It's everything around it. It's the light, the composition, the weather, and everything that supports the subject that makes or breaks it, in my opinion. So don't hesitate to go back to the same location over and over again and photograph the same things. You'll be amazed at what you can find. It's one of the things that most people overlook in photography. They think, oh, it's been done to death. No, it hasn't been done to death. You can photograph the same subject 365 days a year and you can come up with 365 different pictures. So I hope that helps. Hope that encourages you to get out and photograph stuff, even just stuff around your neighborhood that you photographed 100 times. Keep photographing it and keep photographing it in different light, different angles, different compositions, different weather, and you'll be amazed at what you can do with the same subject. It'll actually help your photography skills get better and better, because you're going to see things a lot differently, even just focusing on the same subject. So anyway, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I hope you will subscribe and follow me at bearriverblogger.com, and subscribe to this channel where we're going to give out these little photography tips along the way to help you guys get better at photography. And I hope this works, and we'll catch you on the next video podcast.